Hello everybody, it's Melanie here from Mel's Inky Fingers. Happy Friday! Another week is here and we are 1 week closer to summer. Although it's pretty, it's getting pretty spring-like. It's definitely moving towards summer, which is always nice. So welcome, happy Friday. Thanks for joining me. I'm just going to make sure I'm in the right spot and that everyone can hear me. And it looks like you can. Hi, Julie. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Today we are going to work with a very fun stamp set that's called Fun on Wheels. This is out of the new 2023-2024 annual catalog. And when I saw this, I thought this is perfect for boys and teens and kids, which are sometimes tricky groups to create for. And we are going to make some simple cards today with graduation season here and upon us. We need cards that we can give graduation gifts with. So I thought it would be kind of cool to show you a couple of quick and easy cards that you can make in any colors that you have using this stamp set. It's a great graduation card, and even the sentiments work. Even though it doesn't say congratulations, I think that the sentiments in the set work perfectly for creating graduation cards. So hello everyone, welcome, thanks for joining me. I'm going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to find me and join us, and then I'm going to get started. I don't really have any announcements today other than I will be sending off the last batch of product shares. They will go out by Tuesday morning. I would say Monday, other than it is a holiday, so there isn't mail. So Tuesday morning, the last batch will go out. So if you've not yet received yours, you may get it today or tomorrow because I did ship a batch out earlier this week. So all the reservations have been sent out unless you had a paper sampler. Those are the last things that I'm finishing up, and they'll be done this weekend. So if you are receiving your package, I hope you're loving it. I like to put those together with tender, loving care to make them special when you receive them. So when you get them, I hope you love them. And if you have concerns, please reach out. So, all right, I think I'm going to get started because I jumped on just a couple minutes late. I was running a little behind today because one of our critters had to go to the vet. So I was flying home from the vet to get here so that I could jump on in time. So let's get started. All right, so the new annual catalog is chock full of cool new stamp sets to work with. I've been enjoying getting the creative fun going with some of these. So here's the Fun on Wheels stamp set. And there are coordinating dies. I didn't even bring the dies into today's projects because, again, I wanted to keep them very simple. And I'll be honest, I was finishing them around the vet visit this morning because I've been devoting my time to product shares. So I purposely kept them super simple, although I should have grabbed the die set to show you because this die set really is fun. In fact, I might jump up and get that because if we have time at the end, I'll die cut some of these pieces and show you some other neat things that you can do with these. But this was one of the bundles that went on my first order with the new catalog. I just thought it was really cool. And with graduation season here, I too need some graduation cards. So we will be using these from my family to some young adults as they venture off to college. So I mixed up the color combinations and tried to pull in some bright, fun colors to mix with this. But here is our stamp set, and I have paired it with this. This is called the Nested Essentials dies. This is a new die set from the annual catalog. It does not coordinate with a particular stamp set. They're meant to be used by themselves to coordinate with anything you want to pair them with. And what I love about these is the detail. So you have these rounded corner rectangles that have piercing. You have the banners that have double stitching, and hopefully you can see that. And then you have this cool shape. I don't even know what to call it other than cool. It has like a decorative, almost like a rope edging that embosses into your shape. So they're just neat, well done, thoughtfully created to bring extra detail to your project just by adding a nice label to the front of it. You bring all these extra added details for texture. So we are going to use the dies on both of these cards today, and I'm going to show you a new way to use your dies. If you've never done partial die cutting today, you're going to learn how to do it. So I use the rounded rectangles, and then I use the banners to create our banner piece here. So let me quickly run and get the dies for this and a piece of paper. All right, I'm not kidding. You know the joke that says, where do you find everything you're looking for? In the last place that you look. It literally was the very last die set in my stack, and I went from the back forward thinking it was in the back. Had I gone from the front back, I would have had it first. Hi, Joan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right, so when we're done creating, if we have a little time, I'm going to cut these so that you can see, because it really is a cool set, and I will be delving into using the whole bundle at some point. All right, so let's create this card first. I wanted to pull in, I love a green and blue color combination, and I wanted to pull in bright colors. As a graduation card, this would be fun done in the colors of the kiddo who's graduating for their school colors. I didn't use school colors, I just pulled the colors that I liked. So let me show you what I used. I used Blueberry Bushel and Lemon Lime Twist. These are two new colors added to our core color line. And Blueberry Bushel you may or may not be familiar with from previous when it was an in color. Then for the card, you are going to want a 4 1/4 by 11-inch piece of cardstock. This is half of a sheet of standard card base with a top fold. I like top folds. And then you will want a piece of basic white that's cut 3 3/4 by 5 for the front layer. And then a couple of scraps, one in Blueberry Bushel and one in white, and this is what we're going to layer with. Now I have pre-cut this using those nested essential dies so that it was ready to go, but I am going to cut the smaller one after I stamp it. Then for embellishments, we're going to use the classic matte dots. I love these. I use them a lot, and I do lots of coloring and making custom colors with the cream and white ones. Now these have 4 different colors. You get white, vanilla, basic gray, and black. But what I love about these white and vanilla ones is that if you have Stampin' Blends, you can color them any color you want. And we're going to do that. We're going to use the dark Parakeet Party Stampin' Blends, and we're going to make it custom. Then for my other embellishment, I'm going to use the 2022-2024 in color twine pack, and I've pulled out this Parakeet Party. It goes so nice with Lemon Lime Twist, and we're going to add that to our card as well with the dots. All right, so let's get started. This card comes together nice and quickly. We already have our scored and folded card base, so let me get a piece of scrap paper to put underneath my project here so I keep my work surface clean. Okay, I am going to stamp. Is this Lemon Lime Twist or Parakeet Party? Oh, it is Lemon Lime Twist, okay. So this stamp set has this map background. I love it. I think it's really cool, and you could color these little streets and do all kinds of neat things with it, but I'm going to just simply stamp it all over in my background in a lemon lime twist. So I'm not going to do anything fancy. You could stamp off if you wanted. I'm just going to come all over my card. And if it overlaps it a little bit, it's okay. It's a map. There's lines everywhere on the map, right? Okay. Just get down here along the bottom. And when I saw this stamp set, I thought this would be cool to create cards that have a lot of movement in them. And by movement, I mean stamping the image in a way that it gives you the sense that it's moving along in the card. So when I created this particular card, oh, I'm so going to need this. When I created this particular card, I thought it would be neat to make it look like the skateboard was gradually coming across my card. So I just repeatedly stamped it, but each time I brought it in a little further so that I had this angled looking image across the front of the card. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to take Blueberry Bushel and our skateboard stamp, and I'm just going to start stamping. I'll start at the top of the card, and then I'm just going to keep ever so slowly moving it in a little further until my skateboard, the whole thing, is on my card. And then once I'm to the point where the whole skateboard is on the card, I'll come behind it and stamp another skateboard. I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so see how I have these little gaps? So watch what I'm going to do. I'll just come behind it and line up the skateboard and stamp it. I didn't ink it up enough there, so I'll have to fix that somehow. So see how I'm just adding another. I have no way to line this up because it's not a photopolymer, so I'm just going to try to get over the top of it and fill that in as best I can. It won't look perfect, but it'll at least take your eye away from it, and that'll be okay. All right, so now we have this movement across our card where we've repeatedly stamped the skateboard, and it just gives you this cool pattern. Now remember I said these were easy cards, right? They're easy, easy cards. So all I'm going to do is take this and adhere it in place right to our card base. I wanted these to be quick to put together so that you could make multiples if you needed and have them done relatively easily. So there's the beginning of our card. Okay, we have that background in place. So now let's work on our sentiment, and our sentiment is also going to be the focal point of our card, which makes it easy. It's kind of 2 for 1. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Lemon Lime Twist to coordinate with my card base, and I'm going to use this sentiment that I like so much. It says, "At every turn of life may you find adventure." I think that's really great for a graduation sentiment. So I'm just going to ink this up and stamp it in the center here, because then I'm going to die cut it with this label. So in comes my nested essential labels dies. Aren't these cool? So I'm going to use this stitch rectangle, and I'm going to use one size, smaller, not bigger, than this here. Okay. The other thing you could do is you could cut this out and create a frame, which is also neat. But I'm going to just put this in the center, and I'm going to put it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine that's right here next to me, and cut it out. Tiny little die cutting machine that I love. So if you missed out on the offer to get the boho blue Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, if you joined my team, that was back in what, February, March or something, I think, when you could get this little boho, I call it the boho beauty. This little Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine was a bonus you could add to your starter kit. Back earlier this year. But if you missed out on it, or if you're already a demonstrator and missed out on it, they're available for purchase right now. How cool is that? I love the blue color, and I just keep it sitting up here on my table where I record, which is really nice. I don't have to move it from my craft space, which is back around the corner. All right, so as I continue to work on this, I'm going to pull in this twine from the In Color twine pack and my scissors here, and I'm going to wrap this around. You can do it once or twice, it's up to you. I'm going to do it at least twice because why not? And then I'm just going to tie this in a knot. I think I cut myself a little short here. And I'm going to tie this in a knot instead of a bow, but I'm going to show you a little fun tip to give yourself a little more fullness. So here's our twine. It's crisscross, and that's okay. I'm going to slide it down so that it's not hidden behind this layer. See how that fits perfectly on there? So let's trim these little edges off. Thanks, Joan. I'm glad you like that. So I'm going to use my small dimensionals. Well, I think we can probably use the bigger ones. Let's see. You want that twine to kind of go through there so it lays nice and flat. That would be the only reason why the small ones might be better, is to stay away so it doesn't overlap, because if you overlap the dimensional on that, your layers won't lay nice and flat. I like them to lay nice and flat without any little humps in the layers. All right, so I'm going to set this here right in the center. So now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this twine and twist it counterclockwise to how the fibers are put together, and I'm going to separate them just to create that extra little texture, because the knot doesn't add much dimension like a bow would. But look how that just creates a fun little accent there. Okay. Spread this back out. And now this is ready to go on our project. And if you want to cut this a little shorter, you can. And this can go right on our card. So again, I'll put some dimensionals on the back of this so that it lays flat with that twine there. And you can center this in the middle, offset. You can offset it high, low, or in the center. I kind of like it up here because it fills the space that was created by keeping the skateboards over to one side. All right, so now let's make some custom embellishments for our project. So I'm going to use my dark Parakeet Party, or you could use Lemon Lime Twist Stampin' Blends, and I'm just going to color these off-white ones or the white ones. You can pick. I use more white than off-white, so I tend to use up the off-white first. And then you want to give them just a moment to dry. And once that alcohol coloring dries on there, that'll be permanent on there. So you don't have to worry about it rubbing off on your project, but you do have to wait for it to get completely dry first. Hi, Pat. Welcome. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining in today. We are making some quick and easy cards that would work perfectly for graduation season, which is upon us. My kids had their last day of school today. They'll be rolling in the door here shortly after we finish up. And let the craziness begin. Summer is always a crazy time. I sent my mom a picture this morning. We had tennis, hockey, and lacrosse last night, ×2, and we have sports equipment just strewn about our dining room floor right now. And I sent my mom a picture and said, let the craziness begin, with all the heaps of stuff everywhere, because I feel like the house is constantly a disaster all summer with all the people here. So here's our card. What do you think? Isn't that fun? You just get that neat pop of color from the blueberry bushel. You can see on this one, I stamped it a lot closer together than on this one. I overlapped the wheels a lot here, but I let them show here. So you could do it either way. But isn't that neat to have the bright, I like the blue and the green, the bright color combination. It makes it fun. Now, I didn't do the inside, and we really should do something. So at every turn of life, may you find adventure. I'm going to stamp this. It's a good day to have a good day. I agree with that. Thanks, Joan. I'm glad you like that. Had anyone noticed this bundle in the catalog? There. Now we don't have a naked inside. Thanks. Oh, I love all the hearts and thumbs up. Thank you. Yes, Joan noticed it. Yes, I really like it. I'm so glad that I got it. All right, now this second card I think is just cool. It's also just as easy. You can make it with any color combination that you want. Again, as a graduation card, it would be great, just how it's created. And you could either change out to the school colors again or do a monochromatic. I kind of went with a half rainbow here with the red, orange, yellow. You could do monochromatic with greens or yellows or black and grays. So many different things. Now, speaking of black, look at this designer series paper here. So this Zoo Crew, I'm sorry I don't have my... I can't wait to get my paper samplers done so I can show you a little easier. So this Zoo Crew paper has been really, really popular, and it's so easy to get distracted with the adorable line art animals and fun scenes on the one side of the paper. But when you flip this over, you have a whole collection of black and white designer series papers that go with anything. Even if you don't like to create with animals, this paper collection is a staple because you can make it work with any project or any color. You can add color to it. You can leave it black and white. But look at how good it looks with this bright pop of color when it gives you this dark background to work with. I think that black and white paper is just a staple item that you keep, just like you keep adhesive and ink. It just works. So to create this card, let me grab my little bin here. You will want a real red card base that's cut 5.5 by 8.5, and I've scored this at 4 1/4 to make a standard card base. Then I chose a piece of black and white designer series paper. Again, this is from the Zoo Crew. Look how cute. And I love this chevron pattern. I love a chevron pattern. So this is cut 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So if it's a directional print like this, just make sure that you have your card orientation the way you want it when you cut your pattern so that it's not upside down or crooked or whatever. Then you're going to want a strip of basic white cardstock, and this is cut 1 3/4 inches high. It's 5.5 long. And then you'll want a scrap of black because we're going to heat emboss a white sentiment to add to this card. Now for ink, I'm primarily using Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, and Poppy Parade, even though I'm using real red. I know, I wanted it to just be a little lighter and blend with your orange and yellows that we're using. And then for the sentiments, I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Whisper White Craft ink before heat embossing it with white embossing powder. But then on the inside, I'm going to stamp with black. Now you could also heat emboss your sentiment so that it's white on the inside if you wanted. Embossing can work on any color, and maybe we can even do that. Then for embellishments, once again, I know I've been using this a ton. I absolutely love it. This is the 1/8 inch silver ribbon that is part of our online exclusives offering. It comes as a 2-pack with 1/8 inch gold. So it's silver and gold, an 1/8 inch wide ribbon. You get a whole spool of each. So that's a good one to grab. And then again, I'm going to use the classic matte dots on this project. Except I had an open pack of them. Here they are. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just adhere this down so that I don't do anything silly with it and ruin it. So this is our 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of designer series paper. And again, it's going down on our standard real red card base. And I'll set that aside. So now let's pull out what we're going to stamp on. And I am going to want a little scrap underneath initially because when I start, I'm going to be working on that bicycle off my paper. So I'm going to start with my lightest color and go dark, light to dark, but you could also go dark to light if you wanted. There's no right or wrong here. I'm going to use 2 stamps. I'm going to use this bicycle to repeatedly stamp to create movement with that bike. And then I'm going to use the Look at You Go stamp on the front. On the inside, I'm going to reuse this At Every Turn of Life, May You Find Adventure, but a high 5 would be really nice too. So to repeatedly stamp, you can repeatedly stamp a couple of ways. So you could stamp and then move backwards and keep stamping until you're out of ink on your stamp, and that gives you a neat look. You can kind of see how that looks. Hopefully the camera's picking it up. Or you can do like I'm going to do. I'm going to keep inking and stamping and just keep stamping over my image. And then I'm going to go to a darker color, which is my Pumpkin Pie. So I think I had mentioned before that when the catalog came out and we had redone our color line, I treated myself to a brand new set of ink pads, and oh my goodness, I have been in love. You forget how used your ink pads are sometimes when you're using them. Just about every day I'm using my ink pads. So now I'm changing from orange to my red, and I'm going to stamp. Okay. So I've gone dark to light, and that's going to create movement across the front of my card. So now I'm going to show you a neat technique with the dies. So I'm going to use the largest banner die, and I'm going to do what's called partial die cutting. I'm going to take my paper and slide it from top to bottom. See how I'm going from top to bottom? And I'm going to line up this paper exactly where I want it. And all that's going to cut is this, because this side is up above the cutting surface of the die. So all that's going to cut is the part of the paper that's underneath the die that actually goes through the die machine. Now, you can also do partial die cutting by only running your paper partway through and stopping where you want the die cutting to stop. So that's a way to do it as well. But this is just a different technique, and maybe it has a different name. I don't know. I call it partial die cutting. And I'm going to put this through just enough to cut the edge. And what I love about this edge is it's going to have that added detail, because these dies have that beautiful stitching to add the detail to your die cuts. So let's pull this out of here. Pull my tape off. And hopefully you can see that. Can you see that detail? How fun is that? Love that. And then next we're going to work on our sentiment. So let's pull our sentiment in. And we're going to heat emboss this. So I'm going to bring in my Embossing Editions tool kit here, which has this tray to collect my powder and a little tool to hold my paper so I don't burn myself, as well as this. I use this a ton, and I use it for a lot of things other than simply putting on my paper so the powder doesn't stick where I don't want it. I probably needed a little bit of ink on this, but we'll make it work. In case it's not real juicy, I'll make sure my stamp is good and inked. So I'm just going to kind of hit the center with this. And then here's my white embossing powder. So our embossing powder comes in 2 sets. You can do either metallics, which gives you silver, gold, copper, and I forget what else. Oh, and black, or maybe not black. I forget. There's 4 in there. Or you can do the essentials, which gives you black, white, some others. So there. So now I'm going to take this and heat this with my heat tool, and it's actually going to melt that powder and give you a nice look where you can add sentiments to dark colored paper with white. So let me plug my gun in here. And now this is going to be loud, so you may have a hard time hearing me, so I won't talk for a moment, but you can watch and see how this is melting, okay? My pad is very dry. I needed to have added some ink to it, but it still creates a very nice sentiment. So let's do something fun and also stamp inside our card. This has powder in it, and what it does is it removes the static, and it doesn't let the embossing powder stick to all the static. So I'm going to here it is. Oh my goodness. I was looking for my white. All right, so I'm going to ink this up, and I'm also going to add some embossing powder to the inside. So instead of doing it black, we'll do it white, and we'll see which one you like better. Does that sound fun? So I usually keep a tiny little paintbrush by my table to knock off excess powder, but I didn't bring it out here. But don't be afraid to blow on your words to get any loose little bits off. It's not going to ruin it. All right, so let's heat this again. You can watch it melt. Okay, there you go. So there's our card. Now let's assemble this. Okay, so I'm going to add this to the front of my card, but I wanted it to have just a little something extra. So I'm going to put a little bit of ribbon in the back. So here's where this 1/8 inch ribbon comes into play. And I'm just going to kind of create a figure of 8 here. But I'm going to leave myself a little extra length just in case I need to adjust it. And I have some dry adhesive down on here. I don't know if you saw me put that Stampin' Seal on there, and I did that so that I could just kind of come and push this into place, and it would just hold it immediately when I put it down. Okay? And then you can come in here and adjust this however you would like. That's what I love about it. And then once you're happy with where the placement is, you can trim your ends, and then we'll glue this down to our card front. And I'm going to put this on with some dimensionals. And if you have some extra adhesive, I like to put a dimensional over it, because if you get pressure on the front of the card, that could stick down to your card front and kind of ruin how it looks. So you do want to pay a little attention to that, where there's leftover adhesive stuck there. And then I'm going to put this just offset towards the bottom, and I'm going to bring the white all the way out to the edge. So instead of having it flush with the Designer Series paper, I'm bringing it across that line and just kind of break up that long line. All right, so last but not least for layers, we're going to take our little trimmer here, and I'm going to cut down this sentiment to make it a much smaller piece than we have here. So here's our, and we can add this right here to our card wherever you want it. So I think our small sentiments would be good, or I mean our small dimensionals would be good, or you can trim a piece off the edge here if you need a narrower piece. So this should be good. All right, and then let's bling it up a little bit with some we'll add a few little black dots. Okay, and there's your card. Look at you go. And then on the inside, I have at every turn of life, may you find adventure. One is in white, one is in black. So I'm going to add that little bicycle here. So I'll pull out my red. Okay, and there you go. What do you think? Easy peasy cards. Which one do you like better? Do you like the skateboards or do you like the bikes? You're welcome, Joan. Thank you so much for joining. Do you have a preference? I'm going to show you these. Which is your favorite, the skateboards or the bicycles? I don't know how much of a delay we have today, or if no one has a preference. Oh, the bicycles, but both are great. Oh, thanks, Joan. All right, so I told you that I would show you these dies if there was a little time. So this die set contains some open dies that cut out the stamped images and then some coordinating dies for building. So I wanted to cut out a couple of these and show you how these can work together because they really are neat. Now this would be a good die set to get some adhesive sheets because you see how thin these are. I want you to see the amazing detail on these. There we go. So let me take this out of the way so that you can see how fun is that bicycle. But there's a really cool way to use these. So let me cut out this piece here and I'll show you how these go together. Whoops, I need a little piece here. It's too wide. So several of these stamps have coordinating dies. For example, here's the bicycle die that will cut out the stamped image that I just used on the last card. So you could choose to take this bicycle and put this die on it and cut it out. I don't know if you can see that well enough because, we'll do that. See how it fits over that stamped image? But you can also cut this out, and then there's these detail dies that, look at, you can use them as layers to build. How fun is that? Now, if you have adhesive sheets, it's even better, because these detail dies with the thin images like this, I recommend putting adhesive sheet on your cardstock first before die cutting, because then when you cut this, it's a sticker. You peel that sticky back off and you can put it right down. You don't have to try adding multi-purpose glue or fine tip glue pen to this to keep it nice and clean and not goopy. And then there's another cool die here, and that's these tires. So these tires work with that frame, and I think they would be a fun thing to cut out with like metallic paper or foil paper and add accents to your bike. Let me show you what they look like once you die cut them. They really are a lot of fun. I think they look like cool background pieces, and the little die cut pieces come out so easy. You just kind of rub your finger over them and they fall right out. There we go. Get this out of the way so that you can see well. But these go right underneath that bike frame. See that? And this can go on top. And then you can adhere it all in place. So let me hold that up so that you can see it. I think you get the gist, even though it's not glued down. It does fit perfectly when you layer them. Isn't that fun? I love this little bike. I love it, I love it. So let's look at this die set a little closer. So this cuts out the you have open dies for both bicycles, stamped bicycle images. So you have this bigger bike, and you have this bike's kind of at an angle and bigger, and then you have this bike that's a side. So you have open dies for those. You have an open die for the scooter and for the skateboard. And then you have these 3 detail dies, which allow you to build a bike. But the bike can also be built on a die cut for the stamp that simply creates a layer for the die cuts. So you wouldn't even have to pull out your stamp if you wanted to. You could create your bicycle out of die cuts too. So it's a fun set. All right, and that, my friends, is what I have for you today. Okay, so any questions on anything? Does anyone have questions? If you're still waiting on your product shares, they'll be in the mail no later than Monday, so they'll go out Tuesday morning. I have just about all of them sent, unless you have a reserved paper sampler set. That's the last thing I'm finishing up now, okay? So thank you for being patient. It's a huge, huge job. I had like over 100 pounds of paper and like 1,000 yards of ribbon to take care of by myself. So I take great care in making those beautiful for you so that when you get them, all your products are awesome. All right. So thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining me. And I will look forward to seeing you soon. I won't be live next week because I am not able to be in my office, but I will hopefully try to get something scheduled so that there will be fun here for you to join in on. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great holiday weekend.